Okay, now we're going to work on the structural floor system. And this model that I'm showing you right here is where we're going with this thing. This is the finished version of the flooring system. So in this section, you can see that I've added a sill plate on top of the beam. We got a sill plate against the wall on top of the foundation wall, an end joist at the outside. This gray floor system here is a void floor system. Excuse me. And what it does is it cuts our hole into the wall for us. Okay. And then I've got my plywood subfloor. If I go to the other section, you can see I've got the actual floor joist running across there. So let me go back to my 3D view here and hide. Let's see. I just go hide category. I'll hide all the floors. Okay, so there's, excuse me, there's our flooring system in the 3D view. Okay, so that's where we're going with it. And let me get things set up here and I'll show you how we get there. But I'm going to close down those things and I'm going to move that one out of the way. Okay, so here's the house as you know, as you've gotten done so far. The reason we created these walls starting at top of our foundation wall is so that we want to be able to cut into it and remove um, the drywall and the stud, but leave the wall sheathing and the siding that comes on down. So there's multiple ways to do it. You can do your floor system starting here at the floor level and go up, and then you take those things and edit your wall family and drag them down. Or you can start them at the foundation wall and have your floor system cut into them. A couple of different ways of doing it. Okay, I'm gonna have to open my section back up so I can see some things here. Hang on with me just a minute. Okay, so we're gonna start on, let's see, I wanna open up my, I can do it on, let's see, because floors go to the top. So I can do it on my first floor level. That will be fine, I think. Yeah, that's where I want. I want first floor level. And we're going to create a floor system. And it's going to be a generic. This is going to be a new one, so you can duplicate. But it's going to be a generic, and we're going to make it 11.5 inches thick. And let me show you what I did here. I created a new material type. I called it floor void layer. And let's get it opened up. Okay, so I took one of these structure, probably I don't know which one, it doesn't matter. I just took one of them and duplicated it to create a new one, and I called it my floor void layer. And I made it white and set transparency at 99% and no patterns on it. Appearance doesn't matter because we're going to hide it in our views after we've got it created and we're done with it. We'll hide it. So, excuse me, create you a new material type like these settings and assign it into our generic 11.5 inch floors, and the thickness of course be 11.5. Do not make it a structural material. Okay. All right. Cancel that. Now then, to create this thing, the one wall that's going to be kind of tricky will be this front wall here. If a lot of them, we can go pick wall and we can set a -1/2 inch offset and we want to extend it into the core. Because what we want, if you remember our wall system, the core, the exterior boundary of the core is the outside of the sheathing, the half-inch sheathing. And so when we pick a wall, we want our line, our sketch line, to be on the inside of the wall sheathing. So if I pick that wall, you can see there it put the pink line at the interior side of the wall sheathing. Okay, and so we're going to do that as we go around, and there'll be a couple of places where we have to kind of modify that a little bit. But for the most part, and let's say, okay, got to watch this one carefully. Because see, it picked it in there. So no, okay. Can I do a pick line? No. Well, there's lots of ways you can do it. So I'm just going to draw it because I want it on that line right there. And we'll have to check that in a section view to make sure it looks right. Okay, so we can go back to this and pick that wall. And that looks good. We can pick that wall. That looks good. Now then because these walls coming across here are just gypboard, so we can set this back to 0. Okay, and now then, uh, with this, you can see the dimensions that I used here on these walls. These walls should be fine based on your drawings. When we start putting in our floor system and our stairs, it's going to get a little wonky, a little challenging, but it'll work okay. All right, and so now I'll go and clean up all my joins. Make sure everything is joined nicely at the corners, or you'll get a big error message. Those are good. Okay. And now then, when we tell it yes, we do want to cut overlapping volume out of the walls. So yes, we do. And you can see a couple of them is not picking up, so we'll have to look at those. All right, so now let's go to, we're going to kind of work our way around with a couple of section views, and it works better if you'll open up two views at the same time to look at them. Okay, so now this section is across our front wall here, and you can see it did not cut the volume out of that wall. So I guess the reason is because that's a stacked wall and it didn't pick it up. So what we want to do is we'll just use our join command and click the wall and the floor, and you see it'll cut it out. Now we want to check that and make sure that that's at that the floor cuts into the sheathing. Okay, now you want to go all the way around the building and make sure that your floor butts up against the sheathing. And I'm not going to do that in the video here, but you want to do that and make sure your floor is right, that the top of it's at finished floor level, the bottom of it's at top of foundation wall, and the edges are the same all the way around against the plywood When we get down to this area, it should be lined up with the outside of the wall stud. Okay, and then of course right here there is no wall. That's fine. Here we came on out to here. So it looks a little weird here, but we're going to work with it, make it work. So get this floor system in and then check it all the way around to make sure it's correct. And then we'll start on the sill plate next.